Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
And the UFC featherweight #1 contender Brian T. City Ortega secured the bag, and now he's going to wait for the title shot and pray for Max Holloway. But with that being said, it's dope to see Brian Ortega, man. He stood on what he believed in, what he felt was right. And even though he got pressured by some of the fans, the UFC, and even some of the media to potentially take a short notice fight with Jeremy Stephens, he stood his ground, and he even got paid for his work that he put in leading up to that UFC 226 fight with Max Holloway. That didn't happen because Max Holloway had those concussion-like symptoms and was forced to withdraw. But Brian Ortega still had a training camp to pay for, coaches to pay, and stuff like that. And so he was still compensated. Now, we've seen sometimes the UFC not pay guys in this situation, but it's because they'll rebook them with the fight sometime soon. So it's like you're still getting paid, you know. Same training camp, like you just get booked like a month later in another fight. So you're still going to be getting a payday soon. So it's not always that you get paid after you don't fight. I believe actually in most people's contracts it says if you weigh in, you'll get your pay. But if you haven't weighed in yet, then you're not guaranteed your pay. And the fighters did not actually make it to weigh in. I believe Max Holloway was forced to withdraw before they even weighed into the fight. So it was still up for grabs on whether or not T-City was going to be able to get paid from the UFC, but he's officially secured the bag. This is what he had to say. I'm feeling a lot better now. The heartbreak was a little bit real at first, but then once I started to realize the bigger picture and everything, and I had to put my ego aside and put my thinking cap on in terms of business-wise, we made the right decision. I talked to Dana just the other day, and everything is good between me and him. He compensated me. We reached an agreement. And now he says it's time to, you know, pray for Max Holloway. He says, it doesn't matter. You call me 1 day, 2 days. That's never been an issue. But the belt is what I want. I'm going to wait for it and pray that Max gets better so we can give the fight the fans want, that you guys want to see. Because I know we missed out for you guys at UFC 226, but we'll make up for it. So Brian Ortega looks like he's going to be waiting to hear what's going on with Max Holloway. We actually just had a Max Holloway injury update, I believe, yesterday. They're still trying to get this thing figured out, man. It's pretty rare. We haven't seen those symptoms out of fighters very often. There's also been multiple rumors and reports as to what may be going on with Max Holloway. We've heard that it may be water poisoning from trying to, you know, water load too much to cut weight. We've also heard it could be signs of like a mini stroke or a light stroke. And then we've also heard the rumors that he was knocked out, you know, and it was a concussion in training. Now that one, in my opinion, is one of the least likely, just because we've seen fighters knocked out. We've seen them interviewed right after they were knocked out, you know, post-fight speeches. Daniel Cormier comes to mind recently with John Jones. When he was on the mic, you know, he wasn't really slurring his words. Or even we've also seen fighters in lead-ups to their fights, doing media for their fights. And I'm sure Max Holloway is not the only fighter, if that happened, that has been knocked out leading up to his fight. So the symptoms we saw from Max Holloway were a little more scary and didn't really seem to be from a concussion. Also, you think about a concussion or CTE, it's usually over time that it happens, right? It usually builds up. It's not usually one day you're talking fine and not slurring your words, and then the next fight you're fucking slurring your words. Usually you start slurring more and more. You progress, you know, over time. So and that's concerning, because if it was a mini stroke or a light stroke like some people seem to be speculating, then Max Holloway may never be able to come back. He may never, you know, for his own safety, for his own health. That's more important than his fighting career, you know? And so that's one of the possibilities coming out of this. So Max Holloway, in that injury update, he's still getting exams done. The UFC, you know, they got some of the best doctors in the world. So they're going to be getting Max Holloway all the tests as they still try to figure this thing out. But Max Holloway did say he's starting to feel better. So we're still unclear. Now that leads us to the next point. If Max Holloway's out for 6 months or 3 to 6 months, he was pulled out of his UFC 222 fight with an ankle injury versus Frankie Edgar. This is now his second fight he was scheduled to defend his title that he's been injured for. So if he's out 3 to 6 months, he could potentially have to be stripped while they try to figure this thing out. And it would be unfortunate because Max Holloway is definitely one of those real champions that earned his belt. But it is what it is. If he had to come back, I'm sure he would get that first crack for his title, or potentially even move up to lightweight, he's talked about, and maybe challenge for that title. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated on this whole situation. But as far as Brian T. City Ortega is concerned, he secured the bag and he's waiting on that title shot no matter who it is. It doesn't have to be Max Holloway. He said, I'll even fight Jeremy Stephens. Like, you know, a lot of people believe that he was ducking Jeremy Stephens because Jeremy Stephens revealed that Brian Ortega has, you know, turned that fight down with him 3 separate times. And Brian Ortega fired back. He's like, I've finished, the last 3 guys I finished all beat Jeremy Stephens. Why would I be ducking him? So he's kind of firing back with that. But he also said, I'll fight Jeremy Stephens, I'll fight Frankie Edgar, I'll fight anybody if we're fighting for the belt. Doesn't matter. Max Holloway, any of these guys. So Brian Ortega standing his ground and just looking to fight for that belt, and it could potentially be against any of those guys that we just named if Max Holloway gets stripped. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated. Make sure you guys stay tuned. And before we get out of here, real quick, like, we got a huge opportunity for the channel. Yank My Dandy Doodle said he'll match all donations made to the channel in the next week to the startup fund. As we try to, our lease is coming up, we're trying to move to this new studio. It's going to be a lot better for the recording, for the live streams, for everything. We're going to get the new equipment we need. We don't actually need much. So Yank My Dandy Doodle will match every single dollar up to 1,000. So shout out to him. Shout out to you guys. We're going to keep up the grind. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking DOG.